Хотя каждый университет должен сам проектировать свое будущее, он вынужден делать это взаимодействию с трендами, которые охватывают многие, в пределе все мировые университеты. Я попросил рассказать об этих трендах Филиппа Альтбаха, директора-основателя Центра высшего образования Бостонского колледжа, одного из ведущих экспертов в области глобального образования.
I'm going to try in 10 minutes to provide you with a sense of what's going on in the world of higher education globally in the middle part of the 21st century. We are in the midst of an academic revolution. There is no question about that. Probably the most profound set of changes in higher education that have occurred globally, at least since the development of the research university in Germany at the beginning of the 19th century. This academic revolution affects us all, and it has two basic components. I'm going to describe them very briefly and show you how those academic components are in so many ways contradictory to one another and creating difficult problems for higher education systems and institutions. The most important one is massification, the tremendous growth of enrollments in higher education that have occurred beginning in the last part of the 20th century and continuing on to the current period. Some countries have massified and have reached more or less the upper limit of that massifications. Among those countries are most in Western Europe, North America, and including also Russia. These are countries which now enroll 60 to 80%, sometimes more, of the relevant age group in higher education. Massification has meant that enrollments worldwide have increased from about 100 million just a decade ago to more than 200 million who are studying in post-secondary education today. The other side of the academic revolution of the 21st century is what you might call the global knowledge economy. And that pushes higher education in exactly the opposite direction, where mass higher education is opening opportunities for people at all levels of higher education systems. The global knowledge economy stresses the top, the research universities in many countries, so that countries are faced with the challenge of developing really top-class research universities at the same time as they're coping with massification throughout the system. And many countries find that very difficult to do in terms not only of paying for it all, but also providing adequately trained academics, facilities, and so on.
Оба тренда, о которых говорит профессор Альба, хорошо известны в России. Массовизация произошла у нас в 90-е и 2000-е годы, это все знают. Об экономике знаний тоже многие говорят, правда, обычно в модальности Форсайта. Обычно считается, что эти два тренда — это часть одного тренда, что вот есть некая экономика знаний, она требует большого количества образованных людей, и поэтому повышается спрос на высшее образование. Этот взгляд, правда, не объясняет, почему в России, скажем, массовизация давно прошла, а экономика знаний так и не наступила. Профессор Альтбах говорит противоположную вещь. Он говорит, что для экономики знаний нужны совсем не те университеты, которые нужны для массовизации. Собственно, под этим стоит представление о том, что экономика знаний резко разделяет людей на две категории. На производителей экономики знаний, которые придумывают, например, компьютерные системы, которые принимают решения в тех же банках о выдаче кредита, и на пользователей, которые сидят в этом банке и, собственно говоря, озвучивают решения, которые принял не он.
Let me say a few things about the implications of mass higher education. One of them, certainly, has been a more diverse student population. It used to be that only elite students, students who came from well-off families in society, many of whose parents had themselves had access to university education, went on to universities. Now, the social class base of universities is much greater. And students from a variety of different backgrounds can go. And many of them don't have the very good secondary education backgrounds that used to be the case. So although there's been a tremendous growth in the diversity of student populations, there's also been a lowering of the quality overall, both of students in terms of their academic preparation and of the academic institutions themselves. It also means that many countries, and all of the successful countries in terms of their higher education development, have had to develop higher education systems. That is, they've had to create universities with different missions and different goals. Some to serve mass enrollments, focusing mainly on teaching, some to be traditional research universities, in addition, technological universities and other kinds of institutions as well. So we've seen an overall lowering of quality, this is true, in global higher education. That doesn't mean the top universities are worse. In fact, in most ways, they're better, both in terms of the quality of their faculty and certainly in the selectivity of the student population. Many more students apply, few are admitted to these top universities, and most of them who are admitted are really smart kids who score very well on examinations or whatever criteria they use for entry. But the system overall is arguably less excellent. Other part of the global revolution in higher education is the development, as I said, of the global knowledge economy. That's pushed the top research universities to become better, to become more emphasized, because these institutions are the ones that are really directly involved in globalization. They need to cope with the use, for example, of global English, how to teach how to use English, which is the medium of scientific research all around the world. They are the institutions which have a globally mobile academic profession, hiring from a global academic labor market. Their professors can move around within the country in many cases and abroad. A great challenge, of course, is trying to make sure that the system is somehow integrated, that students and professors from non-research universities can have access, if they're really smart, to the top research institutions.
Таким образом, базовое противоречие, заключенное в академической революции, состоит в том, что университеты должны, с одной стороны, повышать свой уровень для того, чтобы участвовать в экономике знаний, а с другой стороны, они должны его понижать для того, чтобы обеспечивать массовое производство пользователей этой экономики.
С одной стороны, в ходе массовизации в университет массово приходят слабо подготовленные абитуриенты, количество университетов растет, уровень университетов снижается, а с другой стороны, глобальная экономика знаний порождает спрос на топовые исследовательские университеты. С точки зрения Альтбаха, решением этой проблемы является создание дифференцированной системы университетов. И, конечно, задачей каждого конкретного университета становится поиск своего места в этой системе.